Welcome back to another YouTube video. We are continuing our Christmas in July ornaments. If you missed the last class we painted this super cute silver grayish ornament, and this is what it looks like finished. So I got some DecoArt triple thick gloss on there and glued on my rhinestones. So if you missed that class, go check it out. Turned out so cute. Today we are painting another, and you can see I based this one. So I used this FolkArt metallic and ice blue, and I originally just put this straight onto my wood and it was very transparent. So I first did a coat of this FolkArt light blue. It's this color. And then once it dried, I went and just put a layer of the FolkArt ice blue metallic. So that is the surface that we'll be painting on. And then for the palette, I'm just going to use this true blue, and we'll use some white to make a little bit of a gradient. I don't really have a plan for this yet, so I don't know exactly what we're gonna use. So we'll just kind of go through tools, paints and stuff as we go. I will be using my Thoughtful Dots stylus tools and Thoughtful Dots liner brush, maybe Thoughtful Dots rigger brush, but all of these are available in my Etsy shop. I will put a link in the description of the video if you are interested. And I think for this one, I'm gonna go for the 5-segment stencil again from Happy Dotting Company. I really like this one because I feel like with the 5 segments, it's spread out enough that it gives us room for like these nice big patterns instead of like having to do teeny tiny ones. So I'm gonna use this again. Maybe on the next one, we'll go to like the 6-segment, but I am just putting the X right over. Oh, these are 4-inch wood ornaments from Nate Co. And they're awesome. They mark the center for us, so we don't have to worry about finding the center. If you need help finding the center, just Google how to find the center of a circle and you'll come up with a bunch of methods. So I'm putting the X over that center mark. And then I want one of these vertical guide marks to go right through the hole so that we can make sure our pattern is nice. One of our points will be going through that hole there. And then I'm taking my Brushwork charcoal pencil. These are going to be really hard to see on camera. Again, we're doing a light background. But I'm just marking all of the vertical guide marks. And then we're going to do all the circular guide marks. I know they're really hard to see on here. Let's think here. I think that's enough guide marks for today. Okay. Let's mix our palette first. I'm going to use this true blue. I'm just using a little paint palette. So I'm going to do straight true blue, a little bit less, a little bit less, and a teeny tiny amount. I'll use a brush to mix that in. But we just want to get a gradient here. So just using true blue and white. I'm not really a fan of like traditional Christmas colors, like red, green, you know, but I might have to throw one in here just so you guys have options. So for the last one, I'm actually just going to use the paint that's on this brush to mix in. That looks pretty good to me. If you want less of a contrast between these colors, you can add more blue to make it all over like more dark, which actually, maybe I'll do that. Again, I don't really have a plan here. Just to have fun. That's the only goal for today. These two colors are pretty similar, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more white into this one, just to give us a different tone. This one barely has any paint in it, so I need to fill it up a little more. All right, so now we have 4 different shades of blue to work with. And what color? I was thinking of going with silver again. I don't use silver a lot. Oh, I actually have also a blue Nuvo. That would be pretty, except it's more teal. I don't know. That actually matches too closely to the background, so probably not that one. So maybe I go with silver again. So I'm using this Nuvo silver lining. I'm just going to pour some into my palette. If you don't have Nuvo, you can just use regular silver paint. I'm gonna go for $12.5 rod. These dotting rods are from Happy Dotting Company. I will link everything in the description. So as you can see, it's very rippled, which means we need more. I could actually probably just squeeze some right on there. It's a very thick paint. And then I'm just swirling it out to kind of make sure it's all covered and leave a nice swirl. And now we will do some dots. I'm gonna start with this 1.5 stylus tool, and I will number these colors. One, two, three, 4. So let's do the lightest color, the number 4. And we are just doing a ring of dots. Just focus on making these a consistent size. If you load a little bit less paint when you go to dip, it'll make a smaller dot. Or if you dip it deeper and load more paint, it'll make them bigger. So for these, we're just really trying to focus on getting them to be all the same size. As we get towards the end, I just kind of like to eyeball. I think I can fit about, let's see. That space is too large for 2 dots and a little bit too small for 3, but I'm gonna try to go for 3. So I just had to make them a tiny bit smaller, which is totally fine. Next, let's go to the number 3 color. I'm gonna use the same 1.5 stylus. And I'm going to dot in between each dot from the previous row. If you're doing this and noticing that your dots have really big gaps in between, then you may need to make larger dots. You can do that by loading more paint onto your stylus or by going up in size. Mine have a little bit of gaps, but actually these ones ended up a little small, so they have more of a gap. So again, just trying to make them a cohesive size. And we're gonna do one more. I will go up in size to the size 2 stylus now, and the number 2 color. And again, dotting in between each dot from the previous row. So for each ring, you do want the dots to be a little bit bigger than the previous row. That will help make sure there's not like huge gaps in between your dots. Because if you were to use the same tool for every row, the dots would all be the same size and you would get these really large gaps in between your dots. Which, if that's the look you're going for, then that's okay too. You'll just keep the same size dots for each ring. So let me think here. I think I want to incorporate more rhinestones, but I do want them to be different than last time. And also like what color. Sometimes if I'm unsure of color, I'll just use clear and then I can swap them out later. So clear is always a safe choice. Blue is pretty, but that one has a little bit more teal. And these ones are sky blue, which goes better, I think. So I think I'll go with sky blue, but we're gonna temporarily place them with mounting putty, so you can always swap them out later. But we'll just go with this. All of these rhinestones are also in my Etsy shop if you're interested. I just want to make sure that the pattern is different than the one that we did last time. So let me just think this through. Okay. I'm grabbing my mounting putty. This is Gorilla Glue mounting putty. I do have this linked in my Amazon shop. That's also in the description of the video. But we just use this to temporarily place rhinestones because you don't want to glue on your rhinestones until after you've varnished your piece. So I'm putting the first rhinestone on the vertical guide mark that goes through the hole. And then we are doing every other vertical guide mark. So there will be 5. So now I'm going to take my size 2 stylus and silver paint, and I'm going to dot at the tip of the rhinestone, and then I'm going to walk the dots down. The silver I'm using is dimensional paint, so it's very thick, so it's kind of hard to work with, but just going nice and slow. So dot and then walk the dots down until you run out of paint. I am hoping to add some blue glitter paints in here. I think I'll do more walking the dots again. I want to make sure it's different than the last class we did. I'm using the 2.5 and the number 2 color. So that tapping motion unloads paint and makes your dot bigger. And then walking the dots down. Dot, big dot, and then walk the dots down until you run out of paint or hit the pattern or hit the end. Dot, walk the dots down. These will make such good gifts. I also have a lot of my Patreon students do markets. So this year we are getting a head start. Okay, I'm loving this color palette. Obviously we have a hole there, so we're just going to walk the dots down from the hole. Okay, what brush do I want? I think the next brush stroke should be thick. So when you're doing any pattern, we're building out a pattern, there is a vertical guide mark that goes through this pattern and this pattern through the middle. So that is your boundary line. So for the brush stroke, you want to make sure your brush stroke stays on right or left side of this boundary line. So I'm going to use the number 1, that dark blue, and doing a nice thick brush stroke using the Thoughtful Dots number 1 liner brush. So when I do brush strokes, I like them to come close together in the center, but not actually touch. This will be the perfect brush stroke to do some glitter on top. With this dark blue, the glitter will pop and give it a highlight. So just kind of going around that hole, that actually ended up perfect. Yay, I love when things work out. Super cute. Okay, now I think I want to do some arches. Arches are my favorite. Let me just test this out real quick. I know this is going to be hard to see on screen. Okay, so for arches, you're going to need a compass, and I'm just putting the pointy end right in between that little gap on this vertical guide mark. And then I bring the pencil end not quite to the edge, a little bit in, because we're gonna dot on this, so you want enough room to dot on the guide mark. And then you're just making an arch from each petal to the next petal. So placing this in between. Very hard to see that. I love arches. I use them all the time in my artwork. And there are many different ways to do them, so this is just one way. Okay, now we have our arches. And we are going to dot on the arch using silver. So if you don't have Nuvo, you can use probably the size 2 stylus. And a silver paint. I'm going to use the size 2 stylus and the number 4 color. And I'm just going to go right up against that previous arch and just make another ring of dots. I'm not going in between each dot or anything like that, just doing a new ring. I love layering the rings of dots when I do arches. I feel like it just looks so detailed and pretty. So if you guys see my larger artwork that I post on social media, a lot of the times it's filled with all different kinds of arches. So I'm happy to show it to you guys on a smaller scale. But if you guys want to learn how to do larger pieces, definitely check out my Patreon. We just did a really beautiful masterclass on there. Actually, I'll show it to you real quick. This is an 18-inch. Well, you're not gonna be able to see the whole thing, but you can see arches. But yeah, we just painted this piece on Patreon. So if you're interested in larger pieces and smaller pieces, we do literally everything on there. I try to do one large masterclass a month, and then the other classes are usually smaller things. We do a birth flower series, so every month we do a 10-inch mandala in the colors of the birth flower for that month. So we do that 10-inch piece every month, and then we're also doing a functional art series right now. So we've done plant pots, bookmarks, we're doing coasters this weekend. We did a large mirror. So super fun. If you are interested in more Thoughtful Dots classes, definitely check out my Patreon. I will leave a link in the description of the video below. Ooh, I love this. Okay. And let's do one more with the number 3 color. It's looking so cute, but I just can't wait to go add a bunch of more little details to it. Okay, love that. Let's do some little micro dots. I'm going to use my micro dotting tool, the 0.05 and the number 1 color. And I'm going to do top and bottom, so just kind of going in between in those little gaps on that last ring of dots. kind of want to see how some micro dots look in here. I'm just trying to find little ways to incorporate more of the dark blue color because it's so contrasting, so we need a little bit more throughout here. So I'm just doing little micro dots with that color. We could do like a little swoop right here with the dark blue. I just don't know. I don't know if I like that. I kind of want to do some glitter. Do we want blue glitter or silver glitter? I kind of like the silver glitter, but I didn't grab it. Sometimes I just don't know what color to use. That's pretty, that's pretty. If we want more contrasting, then we could do I don't know, even dark blue would look, maybe not the darkest blue. Let's try the number 2 color. It needs more of a pop. Don't be afraid to test things out. You can always wipe it up. I'm gonna try the darkest blue and just see. I think I like that. There's always a million different color combinations you could do, so don't stress about it too much, but I think that looks pretty. Ooh, I love that. Okay. And then we just have to figure out what to do right here. I think just like one big teardrop swoosh, but I don't know, silver glitter or blue glitter. Let me see if this blue even goes with. It's still pretty, it matches the background. Let me try the silver next to it. I think silver pops a little more. So let's do the silver glitter. This is Bliss Drops Wasteland. And I'm just doing a big dot in that gap there. and then using my micro dotting tool to drag down. Let me see just what other glittery paint I have. So I still do like the Havasu, which is this bluish. Maybe I'll use it as a top brush stroke. I'm going to use the Thoughtful Dots 2/0 rigger brush and the Bliss Drops Havasu. And I'm just going to go right over the top, just right through the center. To add a little bit of sparkle. Cute. And that is it. I love it. Okay, let's see so you can see all of that sparkly detail. These Bliss Drops dry. They start a little cloudy, but they dry more sparkly. But that looks gorgeous. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, I varnished this one. Whew, sorry, I'm out of breath. I'm what, 7 months pregnant now? And I can never breathe. DecoArt Triple Thick. And I do 2 coats. Makes it really nice and glossy. So I'll probably use the same on this one. And then I did order some ribbons for these, so maybe on the next video, I'll show you guys what the ribbons look like. But here is what we have so far. Hoping to be able to do quite a few more of these little classes before July ends, so keep an eye out. Hope you enjoyed that. If you are interested in any of the tools that I used today, most of the Thoughtful Dots, my brand tools, are available on my Etsy shop. Stylus tools, paint brushes, rhinestones, all that good stuff. But I'll be sure to link everything else in the description of the video, along with my Patreon weekly classes. Again, silicone stencils from Happy Dotting Company. She just came out with this new set that has a 5 segment, 7 segment, 6 segment. So these are amazing. I'll also link those below. All right, we'll see you in the next video.